The Sports Source is brought to you by Fast Frame with Heather Whiteside art now available.
You are watching East Tennessee's first and only year-round sports talk show on television. This is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into The Sports Source. Appreciate you joining us today. We're going to talk Tennessee basketball, but we're also going to have to spend a lot of time on what was just a crazy week for Tennessee. The last 10 days or so, not exactly been the best in terms of the national perception for the university's athletic department. We'll cover all of that today. Let's just jump right into it. Our first segment of today's program is brought to you by Phil Cobble, Fine Homes and Land. You see the number right there. How would you like to live in a beautiful two-story traditional brick home in Farragut's prestigious Smithfield subdivision? All right, now let me make it cooler for the sports fans out there. This home, built in 1996, once belonged to UT football legend George Cafago. I'd just like to live in George Cafago's old home. Call Phil Cobble fast because the Cafago Vol fans are going to be ringing him all day. Phil Cobble, Fine Homes and Land, to learn more about 4,400 square feet in Farragut's Smithfield subdivision. And that's square feet of home, not just square feet of land. So I want to welcome in the guys here. Bob Hodge, who's taking a sip. We have, and we've taken my cups away. Chuck, have you taken your cup away? Mike Strange, Josh Ward, Chuck Cavaleras. Bob is allowed to sip.
Thank you.
Because we don't know what's in there. All right, here's my question. Awful couple of weeks, well, it's not even a question, topic. Awful couple of weeks for Tennessee. The last 10 days have been terrible. So let's put up the terrible timeline here and show you. February 9th, federal lawsuit filed versus Tennessee, claims the culture at UT allows for sexual assault. February 13th, the New York Daily News article says that Manning's squeaky clean image was built on lies. February 16th, Cozy Coleman, former Vol, arrested, felony gun and battery charges, which made the news as ex-Tennessee guy on a couple of the sports sites. I don't think it makes the news if all this other Tennessee stuff isn't going around. And then February 16th, former Vol Matt Crowder arrested in a child sex sting, 5 felony charges pending against him. And then on February 17th, new JUCO transfer in Alexis Johnson hasn't even practiced yet with the team. He was arrested for aggravated assault, false imprisonment. Greg Isaacs, his attorney, says they're going to fight that thing. But the bottom line is, when you're outside of the state of Tennessee and you're seeing one day after another, the ticker keeps saying, former Tennessee guy, Tennessee lawsuit, Tennessee guy arrested, it really sullies the overall perception of the program, does it not?
Consider yourself sullied. And last week on the show, I was talking about my opinion about if I would settle or not, and I was 75% settle, 25% fight. Mm-hmm. Well, I think Tennessee has to get together with whoever the representation is and just say, can we make this thing go away somehow or another before the SEC media days roll around in July? Okay. If we can do it by litigating it, litigate it. If you can't make it go away by litigating it by July, then by golly, I'm settling it as fast as I can sit there and write little checks, or big checks.
Everybody else can hold off on that topic. That's the last question in this block. In terms of, does that change what you're thinking about settling or not? I agree with you, settling. I said that last week, though. Nationally, how big of a concern is this in terms of what you're saying? I mean, around here, you look at it and say, well, there's only one current Vol on that list. Part of this goes back 20 years. Cozy Coleman hasn't played in it forever. Vol fans say it's not fair to lump it all together, but that's not how it works in the media now, and certainly with Twitter thrown in. I think it all does get lumped together, and I think it is a huge black eye. Agreed?
It's 2 black eyes.
I mean, 6 is the case.
I mean, it's like it just keeps getting worse, and then you're kind of like blinking your eyes and saying, what? I mean, who did this now? Cozy Coleman is a former NFL Tampa Bay Buccaneer. But that isn't what's put out there. Yeah. It's the former Tennessee player. So, yeah, I mean, and it just seems to get worse and worse and go on and on.
A couple of weeks ago on this show, we raised the possibility, the question, is there any school and athlete that's more of an icon than Peyton Manning in Tennessee anywhere? And I think we kind of decided, no, this is really a unique situation. And what do you know, he's the face of this thing.
It's the or the other end of this thing. He's the head and tail of this story. That brings up, I want to go to Josh here, the Manning thing. When you first look at that lawsuit, my thought was, Why are you throwing Peyton Manning and Nilo Sylvan and all this stuff from 20 years ago in there? That doesn't make sense. If this ever made it to a court, the judge is going to say, no, you're making claims about the current administration. That doesn't apply. Was I wrong? Either A, they're incredibly lucky that this Manning thing took off, or B, it was brilliant. And I think it's B, brilliant. Put his name in there because that's going to draw more national attention to your plaintiffs, to your cause, to the lawsuit, and also it puts more pressure on Tennessee because it's more dirt hanging over them.
Well, it goes back 20 years, right? We've talked about that so much, but it makes the conversation much larger, and the story becomes much bigger because there's more to talk about. So Cozy Coleman fits into that window, right? In 20 years, and then every time this story is talked about, you know what's attached to it, even if it's involving so many former players, that Power T logo is right there. And every time a national TV show talks about it, they have all the graphics and they have all the footage that they roll on Neyland Stadium and UT's campus.
Yep.
Every single day it ends up popping up, and Peyton Manning's name being attached to it allows that to happen.
I came home earlier this week, or I guess last week, now that it's Sunday. Came home for a day, wanted to see what the latest on the Celtics was, so I turned on Comcast Sports New England, which is a New England-based cable station, obviously. And instead of seeing Celtics or Red Sox or anything else, boom, I see the Power T logo, and they're talking about Peyton Manning, but it's not the Bronco logo, it's the Tennessee logo. And it was Bob Ryan, the national pundit who everybody has followed, see him on ESPN all the time. He was the guy that was talking about it. So you're right, it is seen as Tennessee, whether it's fair or not, whether these are all connected or not, it's viewed as Tennessee.
And it's a topic that's getting a lot of conversation now, too. Baylor, there was a story done on Baylor 2 weeks ago on Outside the Lines, so Tennessee follows that. And when you have something you can add to the story every day, makes it very easy for any national person that's looking at it.
And I think that's part of the fear that people are going to continue to keep adding things every day.
And that goes back to the Bruce Pearl thing from 3-4 years ago. Gosh, it all kind of runs together. Everybody got tired of every basketball game.
Yes.
It had to be rehashed. If this is still alive when football season rolls around, you're pretty much a consensus top 10 preseason pick. You're a consensus to win the pick to win the East. Mm-hmm. Every game you have, if this thing is still alive, then that's going to be part of the conversation. And if I'm a Tennessee fan, which I am, I don't want that as part of Saturday afternoon watching a ball game. That's the reason I'm getting farther and farther into the make it go away as best we can.
Yeah, look, I'm in favor of protecting your good name and standing up for what's right and everything else. But to put it in the Salem witch trials situation, like the Crucible. If you tell me you're going to live as an outcast if you at least admit you're a witch, or you can keep your good name, say you're not a witch, and we'll kill you, I'm picking up my broom and I'm going somewhere else to live. And it's this kind of situation. If you're Tennessee, I think you posture. I think you say we're going to fight this. They've hired a law firm that will fight this if they take it that far. But after you're done with your posturing, I say before football season hits, you kill this. Maybe before the SEC media days. Because I think every news story somehow wraps back to that lawsuit, fairly or not, yes. But it wraps back. So have you any of you guys changed your thinking with the last week of stuff piling up now? Has that changed anyone's attitudes in terms of what Tennessee should do in your mind, fighting or settling?
I was settled then, and I'm settled now.
Okay.
Same here. I would try to get it dismissed. That would probably be very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen, I would settle.
Okay.
Well, the one thing to me you got to be careful of, if you're assuming the people that filed this federal lawsuit are willing to settle. To me, the way they worded it, they know this is not winnable based on the way of the wording. They may, the longer it goes on, the higher the price tag goes. So to me, I wouldn't assume that they're just ready to say, okay, give us a check and we'll drop this.
That's why you posture and fight and try and make it like you're going to win, make it look like you're going to win the case. Because they're going to be sitting, if you go to them today and say, okay, we want to settle, yeah, that's going to cost you. I mean, that's the question we don't know. You're talking about 6 people and then their legal team. How much money are they going to take for a settlement? Tennessee may not be able to settle a thing, but boy, if they could, I agree with Bob, most of these guys make it go away. All right, how bad will the bad press we just talked about impact Tennessee's football program moving forward? Will it impact recruiting? A lot of people are thinking it will. I do not. We'll discuss when we come back on the Sports Source.